Welcome back. Now, in Nigeria, kidnapping for ransom has spiraled into a full-blown crisis affecting citizens across all regions. Just this past week, the Afenifere Youth Leader was abducted, sparking widespread outrage and urgent calls for action. The Nigeria Police Force, NPF, has launched a special rescue squad, while security analysts warn that this latest high-profile case reflects a deeper failure in intelligence gathering, policing, and community protection. As abductions escalate from rural highways to urban centers, the government faces mounting pressure to curb this epidemic before it erodes national stability further. The situation has drawn reactions from different quarters, with the Arewa Youth Consultative Forum demanding swift government intervention to rescue victims and prevent future incidents. Meanwhile, concerns persist over the inefficiency of ransom negotiations, the proliferation of armed groups, and the lack of proactive security strategies. Now, despite increased security budgets and special task force, kidnappers continue to operate with impunity, adapting to countermeasures and exploiting weak law enforcement structures. So the question is the Nigerian state losing control over internal security? And just what sustainable policies can be implemented to combat this menace effectively?
So to help us dissect these urgent questions, we're joined by Alex Okonkwo. He's a global security and public affairs analyst. Mr. Alex Okonkwo, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us, sir. So, sir, kidnapping incidents, it's no longer isolated cases here and there, but it's a full-blown epidemic. So what are the key factors driving the surge in abductions across Nigeria, if you'd say?
Okay, that's a good one to start with. Let us clarify something so that Nigerians will know. Every time criminality, all forms of criminality, be it banditry, capital hustling, or whatever, every time they increase, it is sequential, it is actually parallel to the increase, or rather, I would say the degradation of the economic situation. So in 2017 and 2018, and then immediately after COVID, before the economy is picked up again globally, criminality in general increased. So we must link whatever kind of violence we're having now to the economic situation on ground. If you have taken note, you will see that even the violence that used to be petty crime has become very, 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 very tough. You see people being beheaded. You've seen a lot of that if you've just taken note around you. It means people are getting even more aggressive within the criminal sphere, so to say. So it is quite normal for those of us who have been observing this thing to see that we are going through that period now. As the economic hardship perdures, so is the crime becoming more violent. Now, kidnapping, unfortunately, is the simplest of them all. To be a bandit, to go to a place, you might end up confronting the army. You don't know where they are. To be like a castle hustler, also the headsmen have arms, so they can attack you back. But to kidnap a bus of 14 tourists or 14 travelers on the Lokoja Road, for example, is a bit simpler, so to say. I wouldn't say easy, nothing is easy, but it's a bit simpler. So that's why the criminality part of it is, of kidnapping, is the one that is increasing, because that's the simplest one for bandits to do, so to say. It's very difficult for bandits to invade a school these days. It's not as easy as that. You've seen that has reduced. But
yeah, in line with what you're saying,
it's simple.
Mr. Okonkwo, in line with what you're saying, it's the same case with what we see with the Afenifere Youth Leader, who was kidnapped a couple of weeks ago, and that has been all over social media with bodies calling that he be rescued. Now, do you think that this is going to trigger national outrage so that perhaps maybe the government begins to take decisive action regarding kidnapping specifically as a threat?
Okay, let me deceive you. Let me disappoint you. Sorry, it's not. The answer to that is not. Nigerians have become too docile. I am personally disappointed. I think things are not getting better in terms of security. I mean, I'm talking of not collectively. Okay, let me clarify this. In terms of the security agents, they are better coordinated. So, good point for that. But in terms of this insecurity itself, things are worsening because it is not only linked to the security agents, it is linked to the economic hardship. So this actually falls directly on the government. It is not like what we used to have in the past. What we used to have in the past was that we left it to linger and the monster was created, like Boko Haram, like IPOB, like the Niger Delta agitants. What we're having now is insecurity linked to economy. It's not fundamentalist. There's nobody trying to impose Islam today. What people are trying to do, they're trying to make money. So the kind of insecurity we have now is totally impossible for security agents to handle it. It is linked to welfare. It is linked to people trying to get rich. If their business is going on, the traffic of arms is increasing every day, every week, literally. Customs seizes a batch of arms being imported. People are going to it as business. So we've gone back to the wave of kidnapping we used to have during the Evans period, if you remember, when it was being done for money. There are ransoms as low as 5 million, and then as high as 200 million. In fact, this Afenifere Youth Leader, I think it was 100 million that was asked for. I'm not sure now. I think 100 or maybe a little bit more. But
yes,
it's just to tell you that it's become a business. And what are we going to do against the business? There is no army or police that's going to combat that. Because the young people that are going, and it's young people, that are going to kidnapping, are going into it for money, just like the Yahoo era, like the 419 era. We've always had that era. So it's kidnapping now that is the big thing. They get paid in dollars. Those ransoms are asked for in naira, but in reality, they get paid in dollars. So there's a bureau de change, there's somebody, the intermediary, that transforms that money in dollars. You can't carry 100 million around. By the time you carry that, it will be like 10 Ghana must go, and we all find out that it's money you're carrying. So a lot has changed. It's beyond just our security agents. That's why I cannot put the blame on them. It's a more collective fault, so to say, and it boils down to the government.
Now, I mean, it's a collective fault. It boils down to the government. The police has now launched a special squad for this rescue mission. You also cited Anambra as well. Anambra State has also launched a sort of security outfit called Agune Chamber. All of this are just specialized units to address the kidnapping issues going on. Are they not effective? Is this not a step closer to solving the kidnapping epidemic that we find ourselves, not just here in the southeast, southwest, but also in the southeast as well?
Okay, good point. That's a very good one. These states you mentioned are trying, but the thing is, the kidnapping phenomenon is a step ahead. So while Anambra State and some other states, actually even Niger State is doing quite a lot to catch up on these guys, they are being motivated by other things, and they're well ahead. Let me clarify something. A state like Kogi State, as you know, is at the confluence of Nigeria. So it means it's bordered by 6 or 7 states that all have forests, Nasarawa, Benue, Enugu, and all that. So the kidnappers have a lot of places where they can run to. It is a vast state. It's more like savannic forest, so it's open. That highway, the deadly highway, which is, I think it's called the Act of Evil, several years back, is a 200-kilometer stretch from Abuja to Kogi. Anything can happen. There's no amount of checkpoints that can help. I mean, how many checkpoints are you going to put? Even if you put at 1 kilometer each checkpoint, that's 200 checkpoints. It's not going to work. Nobody's going to be able to move so many policemen and soldiers to that point. So there are still some areas where things can happen. The same thing goes for Anambra State. It's a connecting state. So all these states are trying, the governors are trying what they can do. But we need more intervention, both on the militarized side, and I mean the social aspect of it. It is becoming too interesting to go into this, will I call it business, but let's call it criminal sector. I mean, it's too interesting. There's quite a lot to make from it. That's what I'm saying. It's too interesting now to go into that, because people are not even surviving. Those who are working are not even surviving. So what's the incentive to go and look for a job?
To put it summarily, what do you think needs to be done to the Nigerian security apparatus to help the situation? Very summarily, please.
Okay, good question. So better coordination. A lot is being done already. I must give that pass mark. But better coordination, and then at the same time, more presence. Instead of having checkpoints, let's have the patrol vehicles we used to have when we were younger, highway patrols. Let them be more mobile. Because after between 2 checkpoints, you can be kidnapped. You get my point? So what we actually need is a more mobility in terms of our forces. And let's go back to technology. Please, let the government collaborate with the fintechs. We have a lot of young fintechs. Let them not just do finance, let them do security. Because we need to go back and find how we can be a little bit ahead of the game. Everything we've said this morning, we are still behind the game of the kidnappers. They are still a step ahead, or even 2 steps ahead of the government and the people of Nigeria, actually.
You've done it so well. You said it so well. And that really points to the fact that, and what critics have argued, and you're saying right now, that our Nigerian security architecture is somewhat outdated. And these are just fundamental reforms that we hope to see. And we hope to have you another time to pretty much just join us to give more insight on this, although we're pretty much out of time. But Mr. Okonkwo, this has been sublime. I want to say thank you for joining us. Thank you so much for coming.
Have a lovely weekend.
Thank you, and you too as well, please.